Every single day, people come into my office absolutely certain they're doing everything right. They walk consistently, 30 minutes, sometimes longer, and yet they show up complaining of knee pain, persistent fatigue, leg numbness, and a general sense that they're deteriorating rather than improving. The first thing I always ask is the same. How exactly are you walking? And that's where things get interesting. Because the issue is almost never that people walk too little. The issue is that they walk incorrectly. And incorrect walking isn't simply wasted effort. It actively erodes your joints, ruins your posture, overtaxes your cardiovascular system, and fuels chronic inflammation throughout your tissues. I encounter this pattern over and over again. Subscribe and hit like right now. What you're about to hear is something nobody will mention at your next doctor's visit. Help Dr. Dan Carter reach 100,000 subscribers. Every single one counts. So let's begin with the foundation. Why is walking after 50 not just a pleasant pastime, but a genuine medical necessity? Because after 50, your body initiates an entire cascade of physiological changes. They're predictable, they're measurable, and you can't afford to dismiss them. The first change, muscle mass starts vanishing. This process has a clinical name, sarcopenia. It refers to the gradual, age-related loss of muscle tissue. After 50, you shed roughly 1 to 2% of your total muscle mass every year. That sounds manageable in theory, but over a decade, it amounts to a 15 to 20% reduction in total muscle. And muscle isn't just about strength. Muscle stabilizes your joints. Muscle regulates blood sugar, the amount of glucose circulating in your bloodstream. Muscle keeps your posture upright. Muscle provides the balance you rely on when you walk. Lose enough of it, and everything downstream begins to unravel. The second change, your joints stiffen. Cartilage, the smooth, cushioning tissue capping the ends of your bones, has no blood supply of its own. It receives nourishment exclusively through movement. When you load a joint and move it, synovial fluid, the lubricating liquid inside the joint, gets pressed into the cartilage, delivering the nutrients it needs to remain healthy. Without regular movement, cartilage literally starves. It thins. It loses its springiness. Eventually, it starts breaking down. That breakdown is what we call osteoarthritis, and it's not inevitable, but you can absolutely hasten it with the wrong habits. The third change, your metabolism decelerates. Your basal metabolic rate, the number of calories your body burns simply to sustain itself at rest, drops by roughly 2 to 3% every decade after 50. That means the exact same lifestyle that kept your weight stable at 30 will cause you to put on weight at 55. Not because you changed anything, because your body did. The fourth change, circulation grows less efficient. Your blood vessel walls gradually lose their flexibility. Your heart pumps with slightly diminished force. Peripheral circulation, meaning blood flow to the legs, the feet, the small vessels, weakens. This is precisely why so many people over 50 notice cold feet, nighttime leg cramps, and a heavy, fatigued feeling in their lower legs by day's end. And here's the critical point. Walking addresses all 4 of those systems simultaneously. It engages muscle. It triggers cartilage nourishment through movement. It revs up metabolism. It enhances circulation. Numerous studies confirm that people who walk regularly have substantially lower rates of cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, osteoporosis, and cognitive decline. But, and this is the part nobody tells you, all of that only holds true when you walk properly. Walk the wrong way, and you don't get a lesser benefit. You acquire a new problem stacked on top of the old ones. Let's go through every major mistake I encounter, starting with number 1. Mistake number 1. You launch into your walk too fast. This is probably the single most widespread mistake I see across every age group and fitness level. People step outside and immediately hit full speed. It seems logical. Why waste time easing in when you could just get moving? But your body isn't an engine you can start with a key and instantly run at full capacity. It needs time to transition from rest to activity, and that transition cannot be bypassed without consequences. Here's what actually happens inside your body when you start too quickly. First, your muscles are cold. The colder muscle fibers are, the less pliable they become. Reduced pliability means a higher risk of micro tears, tiny microscopic rips in the muscle tissue that individually cause no symptoms, but accumulate over time and produce chronic pain conditions. Second, your joints aren't yet lubricated. Synovial fluid, the protective liquid inside your joints, pools in certain areas of the joint cavity while you're at rest. to spread evenly across the entire joint surface and create a protective film between the cartilage surfaces, it requires a few minutes of slow, gradual movement. Start fast, and your cartilage is essentially running dry. Third, your cardiovascular system hasn't adjusted. The heart doesn't respond well to sudden demands. When intensity ramps up too quickly, heart rate spikes and blood pressure surges more sharply than necessary. After 50, when your vessels are already less elastic, that abrupt spike places undue strain on the vessel walls. The fix requires zero extra time. Spend the first 3 to 5 minutes of every walk moving slowly, deliberately slowly, almost leisurely. That's your warm-up. It's not reserved for athletes. It's for every person who wants to walk without pain. After 5 minutes of easy walking, your joints are lubricated, your muscles are warm, and your heart has settled into a working rhythm. Now you can increase the pace. Mistake number 2, poor posture while walking. Step outside and observe people walking. Most are hunched forward, head jutting out in front, shoulders rounded downward and forward, eyes fixed on the ground a few feet ahead. This isn't just unflattering. It's a biomechanical disaster for your spine and your respiratory system. Let me explain the mechanics. An adult human head weighs about 11 pounds. When it sits directly over the spine in a neutral position, the neck muscles bear exactly that load. But when the head shifts forward by just 1 to 1.5 inches, the strain on the cervical spine, the neck portion of your backbone, roughly triples. At 2 inches of forward displacement, the load multiplies 4 to 5 times. That means instead of supporting 11 pounds, your neck and upper back muscles are now carrying 45 to 55 pounds continuously. Walk like that for 20 or 30 minutes, and you generate chronic muscle tension in the neck, shoulders, and base of the skull. This is why so many people return from a walk with a sore neck. It's not a chill, it's not aging, it's posture. The second blow lands on your lungs. When your chest is compressed and your shoulders are rolled forward, your diaphragm, the primary breathing muscle, a dome-shaped muscle beneath the lungs, can't fully descend. Your lungs can't fully expand. You breathe shallowly, using only the upper portion of your chest. Your body receives less oxygen than it should. Less oxygen means less energy for muscles and brain. You walk for 30 minutes and feel like you walked for an hour. People blame this on age or poor fitness. The real culprit is posture. There's a third consequence that almost nobody mentions. Poor walking posture disrupts the entire biomechanical chain. Head forward. The lower back compensates with an exaggerated arch. The pelvis tilts. The knees start operating at the wrong angle. The load on your knee and hip joints increases, not because you're old, but because of one specific, correctable mechanical error. How to fix it? Visualize a thin thread attached to the crown of your head pulling you gently skyward. This doesn't mean straining or forcing yourself tall. It simply means allowing your spine to decompress and lengthen naturally. Shoulders relaxed, eased slightly back. Not a military posture, just your natural anatomical alignment. Eyes forward on the horizon, not on the pavement. Chin level with the ground. Chest open. In this position, your lungs work at full capacity. Your neck carries no excess load, and your spine distributes weight the way it was engineered to. Mistake number 3, the wrong footwear. This is the topic people give the least thought to. Shoes are the last consideration when choosing a walking route or deciding how far to go. That's a serious oversight because for your joints, nothing matters more than what sits between your foot and the ground. 2 things happen with age that make footwear critically important. First, the fat pads on the soles of your feet thin out. These served as natural shock absorbers, softening the impact of your heel striking the ground with every step. Now that natural cushioning is diminished, which means your shoes must compensate. If they don't, every ground impact travels straight up the chain: ankle, knee, hip, lower back. Second, the muscles and ligaments of the foot weaken with age. The arch can begin to collapse, a condition called acquired flat foot. A flattened arch alters the entire load angle on the knee, shifts the axis of the hip joint, and increases spinal stress. Well-designed shoes with proper arch support can meaningfully slow that process. What to look for in a walking shoe? First, adequate cushioning in both the heel and the forefoot. The sole must be soft enough to absorb impact, but firm enough to prevent your foot from sinking without support. Second, arch support. Not a rigid insole, but an inner contour that follows the natural anatomy of your foot and prevents the arch from rolling inward. Third, a flexible sole in the front portion. When you walk, your foot needs to bend at the ball, the wide front area. If the entire sole is rigid, it disrupts the natural heel-to-toe roll and overloads the calf muscles and the Achilles tendon, the large tendon at the back of your ankle. One more note about shoes: deterioration. Many people are walking in sneakers or athletic shoes purchased 2 or 3 years ago. The exterior may look perfectly presentable, but the cushioning materials in the midsole, the layer between the outer rubber and the inner lining, lose their shock-absorbing properties long before the shoe appears worn. If you walk regularly, replace your walking shoes approximately once a year. That's not a sales pitch, that's osteoarthritis prevention. Mistake number 4, walking rarely but going long distances when you do. This is an extremely common pattern. People are busy during the week, so they take one extended walk on the weekend, an hour, sometimes 2. They return home tired, feel virtuous, and consider it their weekly exercise quota. From a physiological standpoint, this approach is fundamentally flawed. Your body doesn't respond to isolated bursts of activity. It responds to repeated, consistent signals. Every time you walk, your body receives a message. Physical activity is the norm. In response, your heart gradually becomes more efficient. Your blood vessels adapt. Your muscles strengthen. Your metabolism stays active. This is called training adaptation, and it only occurs with repeated, regular stimulation. One walk per week is too weak a signal. The body never adapts. The benefit remains minimal. Worse still, a single lengthy walk after several days of complete inactivity is a stress event for unprepared muscles. They're cold, unadapted, and the following day, they ache. People draw the conclusion, walking isn't for me, my joints are too weak. That's the wrong conclusion. The joints are likely fine. The loading pattern is wrong. The evidence is clear on this point. 20 to 30 minutes of walking on most days of the week is the minimum effective dose for your cardiovascular system. That's the regimen that reduces your risk of heart attack, stroke, and type 2 diabetes. Not one marathon Sunday walk, but 5 to 6 shorter sessions per week. Your body adapts to what it encounters repeatedly. Only to what it encounters repeatedly. If you currently walk once a week, start with 3 times. Not necessarily for 20 minutes. Begin with 10. After 2 weeks, tack on 5 more minutes. Gradual progression isn't weakness, it's strategy. Mistake number 5. Your arms stay motionless while you walk. Most people either hold their arms rigidly at their sides, let them dangle limply, or stuff them in their pockets. It seems comfortable. In reality, it strips away a significant portion of walking's benefits and disrupts movement mechanics. Here's why. Walking isn't purely a lower body activity. It's a whole body cross-pattern movement. When your left leg steps forward, your right arm swings forward, and vice versa. This pattern, called cross-coordination, is hardwired into your nervous system. It distributes the load across your spine symmetrically and reduces the lateral twisting force on your trunk with every stride. When your arms don't move, your spine must compensate for that asymmetry by over-rotating in the lumbar region. For people who already have lower back issues, this can trigger pain. Second point, arm swing recruits the muscles of the shoulders, chest, and upper back. That means during a walk with proper arm movement, considerably more total muscle mass is engaged than during a walk with static arms. More active muscle means higher caloric burn, improved circulation, a more vigorous metabolism. The exact same distance walked with proper arm swing delivers a stronger physiological effect. Third point, arm movement establishes rhythm and sharpens coordination. This becomes especially important after 50 when coordination gradually declines. A steady, rhythmic arm swing helps maintain a consistent stride and lowers the risk of losing balance. How to do it properly. Bend your elbows slightly, roughly 90 degrees. Let them swing forward and back in natural rhythm, opposite to your leg movement. You don't need the exaggerated pumping action of competitive race walkers. Just stop pinning your arms to your body. After a few walks, you'll notice the difference. Walking becomes easier and more fluid almost immediately. Mistake number 6. Walking with your phone in your hand. 2 decades ago, this mistake didn't exist. Today, it's one of the most pervasive habits I observe. People walk while staring at a screen, reading messages, scrolling through feeds, and they believe they're taking care of their health. They're not. Start with posture. When you look at a phone you're holding in front of you, or worse, down by your waist, your head tilts downward. We've already established what that does to the cervical spine. The strain on your neck muscles increases 3 to 5 times. Your shoulders roll forward. Your chest compresses. Breathing turns shallow. Everything we discussed about poor posture applies, but now it's actively reinforced and amplified. Because with a phone, your head angle is even steeper than with ordinary slouching. Now consider safety. After 50, the vestibular system, the balance and orientation mechanism in your inner ear, begins operating with slightly less precision. Proprioception, your body's sense of its own position and movement in space, also starts to diminish. This is a normal, gradual aspect of aging. What it means is that your brain increasingly depends on visual input to maintain balance while walking. When your eyes are locked on a screen instead of the path ahead, your brain is deprived of its most critical source of spatial information. You stop noticing uneven pavement, curbs, steps, wet surfaces, sudden drops. The risk of a fall rises substantially, and a fall after 50 isn't simply a matter of getting up, dusting yourself off and continuing on. It frequently means a fractured wrist, broken ribs, or most seriously, a hip fracture. A hip fracture in someone over 60 means extended immobilization, surgery, and a prolonged rehabilitation period. The fix couldn't be simpler. Put the phone in your pocket. And one final argument. Walking isn't merely a physical exercise, it's a neurological one. When you walk while paying attention to the road, the sensations in your body, your breathing, your surroundings, you're actively training attention, coordination, and spatial awareness. That's a genuine, documented benefit for your brain. When you watch your phone, that benefit vanishes. Your legs are moving, but your mind is occupied elsewhere. Let a walk be a walk. Mistake number 7, neglecting recovery after walking. Nobody discusses this. Not in a clinic, not in a gym. The common assumption is that walking is such a mild activity that no recovery is needed. That assumption is wrong. Start with water. Muscle tissue is 70 to 75% water. Every biochemical process in muscle, contraction, relaxation, post-exercise repair, takes place in an aqueous environment. Even mild dehydration, a 1 to 2% reduction in your body's fluid stores, measurably reduces muscle elasticity, slows recovery, and heightens the risk of cramping. After a walk, drink a glass of water. That's not advice borrowed from a sports drink commercial. That's basic physiology. Now, about stretching. During walking, your muscles operate in a shortening mode. They contract repeatedly. Without stretching afterward, they remain slightly shortened once you stop. Over time, this accumulates. Muscles grow tight and rigid. Joint range of motion decreases, and a persistent feeling of stiffness takes hold. This is most pronounced in the calves, the backs of the thighs, and the lower back. 5 minutes of gentle stretching after every walk prevents this entirely. And about rest days. Many people reason that if walking is beneficial, more walking must be even better. That's not how adaptation works. Your body doesn't adapt during exercise. It adapts during recovery. That's when muscle fibers reinforce themselves, when joints remodel in response to loading, when the cardiovascular system restructures to handle new demands. If you never allow your body recovery time, adaptation doesn't happen. 1 to 2 rest days per week isn't laziness, it's the correct protocol. Think of your walk not as an isolated activity, but as part of a system. Movement, water, stretching, rest. Only as a complete system does it produce durable, long-term results. Now here's an important clinical observation that ties everything together. All 7 of these mistakes carry different levels of risk depending on your age. The damage caused by poor posture, worn-out shoes, and skipped recovery is 2 to 3 times more serious after 50 than it is at 30, because the resilience of your joints, blood vessels, and muscles diminishes over time. The same mistake your body forgave at 30 without consequence will generate real symptoms at 55. How old are you? Write it in the comments. I want to know which age group this material hits closest to home for, so I can focus future content where you are right now. Now, a clear, practical summary. Here's exactly what to do after watching this. 1. Adopt the slow start rule. The first 3 to 5 minutes of every walk, easy pace only, no exceptions. This costs you zero additional time. You're simply beginning more gently. 2. Check your posture right now. Stand up, straighten your spine, draw your head gently upward, release your shoulders and ease them slightly back. Hold that position. Memorize that sensation. Reproduce it every time you walk out the door. 3. Pick up your walking shoes and examine the soles. If they're unevenly worn, if you've been walking in them consistently for more than a year, it's time for a new pair. This is one of the simplest, highest return investments you can make in your joint health. 4. Abandon the one long walk a week habit. 20 to 30 minutes of walking, 5 to 6 days a week. That's the target. If that feels like too much right now, start with 3 days. Add 1 day every 2 weeks. Gradual is sustainable. 5. Let your arms move. Bend your elbows, relax your shoulders, and allow your arms to swing in natural rhythm. Take them out of your pockets. 6. Phone goes in your pocket for the entire walk, no exceptions. If you want audio, music, a podcast, use earbuds. Just keep the screen out of your hands. 7. After every walk, a glass of water and 5 minutes of stretching. 5 minutes. That's all that stands between you and chronic muscle stiffness. Walking is one of the most accessible, safe, and effective tools available for preserving your health after 50. You don't need a gym. You don't need expensive equipment. You don't need any special preparation. You need the right habits and a mindful approach. Small adjustments in how you walk produce real, long-term results for your heart, your joints, your brain, and your overall well-being. Nobody in a clinic is going to walk you through this. That's simply not how the system operates. And that's exactly why this channel exists. Subscribe to Dr. Dan Carter, leave a like on this video, and help us reach 100,000 subscribers, one informed, healthy person at a time. I'm Dr. Dan Carter. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you in the next one.